Let's start here with the truth, because that's where real change begins. Too many people are walking through life wearing masks that say, "I'm fine." They smile when they're breaking inside. They say yes when their mind is screaming no. They act strong because they think strength means silence. But the more you hide from what's real, the heavier it becomes. Denial doesn't protect you, it drains you. The first step toward taking control isn't fixing everything, it's admitting that everything feels out of control. When life gets messy, your instinct is to tighten your grip. You try to control the uncontrollable, other people's behavior, unpredictable outcomes, the entire world spinning outside your influence. And when that fails, you feel like you're failing. But you're not failing. You're just human. You were never meant to carry it all. Acknowledging the chaos isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's saying, I see what's happening, and I'm done pretending it's not. The moment you tell yourself the truth, I'm overwhelmed, I'm tired, I'm scared, something powerful happens. You stop fighting reality and start facing it. That's the moment the fog begins to lift. Because you can't fight an invisible enemy. When you name the chaos, you bring it out of the shadows. And once it's visible, it's manageable. You can't heal what you hide from, and you can't take control of what you refuse to confront. We live in a culture that glorifies busy. Everyone's rushing, grinding, hustling, like exhaustion is a badge of honor. So when you slow down and say, actually, I'm not okay, it feels like rebellion. But that's exactly what it is. Rebellion against burnout, against fake perfection, against the pressure to perform instead of live. The strongest people aren't the ones who keep pushing when they're drowning. They're the ones who stop, breathe, and say, I need to reset. Acknowledging the chaos means letting go of the illusion that control equals calm. Sometimes calm comes from surrender, not from giving up, but from giving yourself permission to not have it all together. It's choosing to pause instead of power through. It's saying, I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to look at what's real. That's not weakness. That's radical self-respect. It also means being honest about what's breaking you down. Maybe it's the constant comparison. Maybe it's the pressure to meet expectations that were never yours. Maybe it's the noise, the news, the notifications, the nonstop demands. When you admit that something's too much, you open the door to change it. You can't adjust what you won't acknowledge. The first act of control is awareness. And awareness doesn't mean judgment. It doesn't mean labeling yourself as lazy or unmotivated or ungrateful. It means observation without shame. This is where I am. That simple statement is power, because once you see clearly where you are, you can decide where to go next. You can't move forward from a lie, only from truth. Acknowledging the chaos isn't about finding calm instantly. It's about starting from honesty. It's about taking off the armor, standing in the mess, and saying, okay, this is what's real right now. When overwhelm hits, it doesn't knock politely. It crashes in like a storm. Your thoughts race, your chest tightens, and suddenly everything feels urgent. You can't think clearly because your brain is in survival mode, convinced you're under attack. But here's the truth. You can't outthink overwhelm when your body is in panic. You have to interrupt it. You have to change your state before you can change your story. The mind follows the body. When your shoulders slump, your breathing shortens, and your head drops, your physiology tells your brain, we're stressed, we're unsafe. The cycle feeds itself. The fastest way to break it isn't with more thinking. It's with movement. Stand up. Roll your shoulders back. Inhale deeply through your nose. Exhale hard through your mouth. That one act sends a signal to your nervous system we're back in control. This isn't theory, it's biology. Your state determines your story. When you move your body differently, you send a message to your brain to shift gears. If you're frozen in fear, get loud. Clap your hands. Walk fast. Shout your power word. The goal isn't perfection, it's interruption. You're cutting through the noise and reminding yourself that you have a say in how you feel. Overwhelm thrives in stillness. It feeds on inactivity. The longer you sit and stew, the bigger it grows. That's why small physical actions can change everything. Splash cold water on your face. Step outside. Stretch your arms wide. Jump if you have to. That tiny burst of physical energy creates space between you and the spiral. In that space, you can breathe. And when you can breathe, you can choose. You don't need an hour of meditation to reset. You need 10 seconds of intention. 10 seconds of awareness that says, I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my stress. I'm right here. That single moment of recognition is the wedge that breaks the overwhelm apart. Every time you catch yourself spiraling and choose to shift, you build emotional muscle. You're teaching your brain that chaos doesn't own you. The beauty of this is that you can do it anywhere. In a meeting, in traffic, standing in your kitchen. Nobody even needs to know. You can drop your shoulders, take a slow breath, lift your chin, and rewire your response in real time. The world doesn't have to calm down for you to find calm. You can manufacture it in the middle of the storm by mastering your state. And here's the key. Don't wait until the overwhelm is unbearable. Practice state shifts when things are small. That way, when life throws the big waves, your body already knows how to find its balance. You're not reacting out of panic. You're responding out of training. The body becomes your ally, not your enemy. Interrupting the overwhelm is about reclaiming access to yourself. It's about breaking the autopilot of stress and returning to awareness. Because the moment you shift your body, you shift your chemistry. And when your chemistry changes, your mind starts to listen again. When life feels like it's closing in, it's usually because you're trying to fight too many battles at once. You're worrying about the future, replaying the past, and juggling the present, all at the same time. Your energy gets scattered across 100 directions, and suddenly, even the smallest task feels impossible. The truth is, you're not weak, you're just overloaded. The battlefield has become too wide, and no one wins a war fought everywhere at once. Overwhelm grows when your focus stretches beyond your control. You can't manage what other people think, what they say, or how they show up. You can't control the timing of every opportunity or the outcome of every risk. But your mind tries to anyway. It clings to the illusion that if you just worry hard enough, you'll gain control. That's the trap. The more you chase control, the less of it you actually have. The way out is to shrink the battlefield. Pull your focus back to the things directly within your reach. Ask yourself one powerful question. What can I control right now in this moment? Maybe it's your breath. Maybe it's the next step. Maybe it's the tone of your voice or the words you choose. That's where your power lies, not in the chaos beyond your reach, but in the decisions within your grasp. When you narrow your focus, clarity appears. The noise quiets. You start to realize that 90% of what drains you isn't happening in reality. It's happening in your imagination. You're fighting invisible battles against scenarios that don't exist yet. By shrinking your battlefield, you stop bleeding energy into what ifs and start investing it into what's real. Control isn't about micromanaging life. It's about mastering your response to it. Think of it like a camera lens. When everything's in frame, nothing's in focus. But when you zoom in, the picture sharpens. The same happens with your attention. When you zoom in on what you can do, right here, right now, your mind stops spinning and starts solving. You move from chaos to clarity, not by doing more, but by choosing less. The smaller the focus, the greater the power. It's not about ignoring the big picture. It's about tackling it piece by piece. You can't climb a mountain by staring at the peak. You climb it by taking the next step. That's what shrinking the battlefield means. Breaking life down into winnable moments. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to win the next minute. And then the next. That's how progress happens, one controlled action at a time. This mindset shift changes the way you experience stress. When you focus only on what's within your control, you stop reacting to life and start directing it. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf them. You can't change the wind, but you can adjust your sails. Every time you do, you reinforce one simple truth: chaos might surround you, but it doesn't have to define you. Shrinking the battlefield isn't about giving up control. It's about reclaiming it where it actually matters. It's choosing focus over frenzy, clarity over clutter, presence over panic. Because when you control your focus, you control your energy. And when you control your energy, you control your life. Momentum is the antidote to overwhelm. When you're stuck, it's not because you're lazy or unmotivated. It's because you've lost motion. The mind freezes when it sees too much at once. The mountain looks too big, the path looks too long, and the gap between where you are and where you want to be feels impossible to cross. But you don't need to conquer the mountain today. You just need to take one small step, one tiny, controllable win that proves to your brain you can move again. Your brain thrives on evidence, not intention. It doesn't care how inspired you feel. It believes what you show it. Every small action becomes proof that progress is possible. When you complete something simple, making your bed, sending that email, drinking the water you promised yourself you'd drink, your brain releases a hit of dopamine, the chemical of achievement. That surge of satisfaction tells your system, we're moving forward, and suddenly, the impossible starts to feel doable again. The magic of small wins isn't in their size, it's in their compounding effect. One small victory leads to another. You send the message, then you write the paragraph. Then you tackle the call you've been avoiding. Before you realize it, the energy has shifted. You're no longer staring at a wall, you're in motion, and motion creates momentum. You don't need motivation to move. Movement itself generates motivation. We often wait for the perfect moment to begin. The right mindset, the right time, the right clarity. But perfection is just procrastination in disguise. The truth is, clarity doesn't come before action, it comes from action. You figure things out as you move. Every small step reveals the next. When you stop waiting and start doing, even imperfectly, you start building your own momentum machine. Small wins also rebuild trust with yourself. When you follow through on something tiny, you prove that your word matters. That trust is sacred. It's what turns discipline into self-belief. The people who create massive change aren't the ones who do everything at once. They're the ones who stack small wins until their confidence becomes unshakable. They don't wait for confidence to begin, they earn it through consistent action. The key is to lower the bar of entry. When you're overwhelmed, don't set huge goals. Set ones so small they feel almost ridiculous. If the goal is to work out, commit to putting on your shoes. If the goal is to write a book, write one sentence. That first movement breaks inertia. Once you're in motion, momentum takes over. You're no longer trying to push yourself. The momentum starts pulling you forward. Momentum is fragile in the beginning. Protect it. Don't measure how far you have to go. Measure that you've started. Each small win is a spark, and if you guard that spark long enough, it becomes a fire. That's how progress really happens, not in giant leaps, but in steady, deliberate movement that builds strength over time. Creating momentum with one small win is about reclaiming your power from paralysis. It's about proving to yourself that you're not stuck, you're just paused. And the fastest way to unpause your life is to act, no matter how small the act may be, because action is the language of confidence, and motion is the seed of control. Pressure is inevitable. It shows up when you care about something deeply. Your goals, your relationships, your reputation, your future. But somewhere along the way, you were taught that pressure is the enemy. That anxiety means you're weak. That nerves mean you're not ready. That's a lie. Pressure isn't a signal to panic. It's proof that you're alive, that you're stretching beyond comfort, that something inside you wants to grow. The question isn't how to get rid of pressure. It's how to redefine it so it works for you instead of against you. Anxiety and excitement are almost identical in the body. The racing heart, the shallow breath, the adrenaline, they're the same physiological response interpreted in two different ways. The only difference is the story you attach to it. When you say, I'm anxious, your body prepares for threat. When you say, I'm energized, your body prepares for action. The feeling doesn't change, but the meaning does. And meaning is everything. When you reframe pressure, you reclaim power. Instead of viewing it as a weight, see it as energy, raw, potent, untamed energy waiting for direction. Pressure isn't there to crush you. It's there to sharpen you. It forces you to focus, to prepare, to rise to the occasion. The same force that can break you can also build you, depending on how you channel it. Pressure is neutral until you give it a job. Think about athletes before a big game or performers before they step on stage. They all feel the surge. the pounding heart, the heat, the rush. But they don't call it fear, they call it readiness. They've trained their minds to translate that feeling as fuel. You can do the same. When that wave of anxiety hits, instead of fighting it, breathe it in. Tell yourself this is energy and redirect it into your next move. The body is giving you power. Your job is to aim it. Pressure also reveals what matters to you. You don't feel it over things you don't care about. The presence of pressure means you're invested, that you're in the arena. It's a signal that something meaningful is at stake. That awareness can transform anxiety from something you resist to something you respect. Instead of trying to escape it, learn from it. Ask yourself, what is this pressure trying to show me? Often, it's showing you your purpose. When you let pressure work for you, it refines your focus. It strips away the unnecessary and forces you into the present moment. Under pressure, you don't have time for distractions or doubt. Your instincts take over. You stop overthinking and start executing. The key is to train yourself to enter that state by choice, not by accident. Pressure can become your performance trigger, the switch that wakes up your highest self when it matters most. You'll never eliminate pressure entirely, and you shouldn't want to. Without it, there's no growth. Comfort doesn't build capacity. Challenge does. Every time you handle pressure with a little more grace, you expand your tolerance for intensity. What once felt overwhelming starts to feel like normal effort. That's how resilience is built, through repetition, not avoidance. Redefining pressure is about transforming your relationship with energy. It's learning to see that the same surge that used to make you panic can be the very spark that makes you powerful. Because pressure isn't a sign that you're about to fail. It's the signal that you're stepping into something bigger than you were yesterday. Your energy is your most valuable currency. Every thought, every action, every conversation either deposits into your energy account or withdraws from it. Yet most people live as if their energy is unlimited, saying yes to everything, absorbing every opinion, consuming every piece of noise that crosses their screen. Then they wonder why they feel drained, anxious, and unfocused. The truth is, you can't live a powerful life with a powerless mind. Protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's survival. Energy leaks happen quietly. They show up in the constant scrolling, the endless comparison, the conversations that go nowhere, the commitments you say yes to out of guilt instead of alignment. You don't notice it at first, but piece by piece, your focus gets diluted. You start waking up tired even after sleeping, because rest doesn't fix what your mind keeps feeding on. The more you let in, the less room you have for what truly matters. That's why energy protection starts with awareness. Auditing your inputs means taking inventory of what's entering your life on a daily basis. What you read, what you watch, who you talk to, where you spend your attention. Every input carries frequency. Some lift you up, some pull you down, and some quietly numb you. The key is to become intentional about what earns access to your mind. Not everything or everyone deserves your front row seat. You become what you consume. The content you absorb shapes your thoughts, and your thoughts shape your emotions, and your emotions drive your actions. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity, drama, and distraction, it's impossible to maintain high energy. But when you fill your environment with people who challenge you, ideas that grow you, and routines that ground you, your entire energy system shifts upward. You don't have to fight for motivation. It starts to flow naturally. Protecting your energy also means setting boundaries and actually enforcing them. Boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. They don't keep people out, they keep your peace in. Say no when something doesn't align. Say no when your body says you're done. Say no without apology. Every time you do, you're not rejecting others. You're respecting yourself. Energy leaks stop the moment you start valuing your own bandwidth as much as your output. This protection extends beyond people and content. It includes your environment. The space you live and work in either fuels you or drains you. Clutter, noise, and chaos consume mental energy. Simplicity creates clarity. Start small, clean your workspace, light a candle, play music that calms your nervous system. These are not minor details. They are signals to your brain that you are in control of your surroundings, not trapped by them. One of the most powerful ways to protect your energy is to build recovery into your routine. Rest is not earned after you've burned out. It's a part of performance itself. You recharge your phone every night without question, yet you run yourself into the ground and call it productivity. Energy protection is about sustainability. It's about creating a rhythm that lets you show up strong without breaking yourself in the process. Auditing your inputs is an act of self-leadership. It's a reminder that you decide what enters your mental ecosystem. You don't have to absorb every story, every request, every piece of noise. You have the power to filter, to pause, to choose. Because your energy is finite, and when you spend it intentionally, you become unstoppable. When life starts to feel chaotic, the first thing that usually collapses is your routine. The late nights get later, the mornings blur together, and the days start running on autopilot. You wake up reacting instead of directing, and everything feels harder than it should. That's because your brain craves structure. It's not about control. It's about stability. Routine isn't restriction, it's rhythm. It's what anchors you when everything else is uncertain. A strong routine gives you a foundation to stand on. It creates predictability in a world that constantly demands your attention. Without it, you spend your energy deciding the same things over and over. When to wake up, what to eat, when to start. Decision fatigue sets in, and before you've even faced the real challenges of the day, your focus is already drained. But when you build structure, you remove friction. You turn chaos into clarity, noise into direction. Structure doesn't mean rigidity. It means alignment. It means designing your day around what actually fuels you instead of what drains you. You don't need a perfect morning routine with 20 steps and 5 journals. You need consistency. You need rituals that remind your brain, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is how I start. Routine is how you train your energy to serve your priorities instead of scattering across distractions. The beauty of rebuilding your routine is that it gives you back control in the smallest, most powerful ways. Waking up at the same time, drinking water first thing, taking 5 minutes for stillness. These aren't small habits, they're anchors. They ground you in intention before the world tries to pull you off course. When your mornings begin with ownership, your entire day starts to follow your lead. Consistency beats intensity every time. Most people build routines that look impressive but aren't sustainable. They sprint, burn out, and then blame themselves for not having discipline. But discipline isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing the right things repeatedly. It's the quiet strength of showing up, even when you don't feel like it. A good routine doesn't demand perfection. It creates momentum through repetition. Your routine should also include space. Space to breathe, reflect, and reset. Freedom doesn't come from doing more. It comes from designing time to recharge. Structure without rest becomes a cage. The goal isn't to fill every moment, but to create balance between motion and recovery. When you plan your pauses, you prevent burnout. You protect the energy you've worked so hard to build. As you rebuild your routine, remember that it's a living system. It evolves as you do. What worked last season might not work now, and that's okay. The point isn't to lock yourself into a pattern, but to stay intentional about how your days unfold. Adjust, refine, simplify. Every small improvement compounds into a life that feels less reactive and more deliberate. Structure creates freedom because it removes uncertainty. It gives you the confidence that no matter how unpredictable the world becomes, you have a system to fall back on. You're not at the mercy of your mood, motivation, or circumstance. You're guided by rhythm, purpose, and choice. And that's where real freedom begins. At some point, everyone reaches a moment where life feels like it's happening to them. Circumstances pile up, plans fall apart, people disappoint you, and it starts to feel like you're just along for the ride. But that's an illusion. You may not control every event, but you always control the meaning you give it. The moment you decide to take ownership of your story, you shift from being a passenger in your life to the driver. Ownership is the bridge between victimhood and power. Owning your story starts with acceptance, not of defeat, but of reality. You can't rewrite a story you're not willing to read. Most people resist their past. They try to skip chapters, erase mistakes, or pretend certain pages never existed. But every experience, even the painful ones, has shaped the person you are right now. Denying it keeps you stuck. Owning it sets you free. The truth doesn't weaken you. It gives you direction. When you take responsibility for your story, you stop outsourcing your power. You stop waiting for someone else to fix, rescue, or validate you. You stop blaming circumstances, and you start asking better questions. What can I learn from this? How can I grow through this? What's the next move I can make? Responsibility doesn't mean blame. It means responsibility. The ability to choose your response no matter what happens. There's a difference between living by default and living by design. Living by default means reacting to life, letting outside forces decide your path. Living by design means creating your path intentionally, even if it's messy, even if it's uncertain. When you're in the driver's seat, you may not know every turn ahead, but you trust that you can handle whatever comes. You start steering instead of drifting. You start designing instead of waiting. Owning your story also means owning your voice. Stop editing yourself to fit into someone else's version of who you should be. Your story doesn't have to impress anyone. It just has to be yours. The scars, the stumbles, the breakthroughs, they're all part of your authenticity. The moments that once made you feel broken can become the very lessons that make you powerful when you stop hiding them. It's easy to fall into the trap of comparison, believing that someone else's story is better, cleaner, or more successful. But comparison is just disconnection in disguise. You're measuring your behind the scenes against someone else's highlight reel. No one else can live your life, feel your experiences, or carry your lessons. You're the author, and every author has the right to write, rewrite, and evolve their own story. Taking ownership doesn't mean the road becomes smooth. It means you stop being powerless when it's rough. You'll still face setbacks, but instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" you'll start saying, "What is this teaching me?" That simple shift transforms struggle into strategy. Life doesn't owe you ease, but it does offer opportunity, and ownership is how you seize it. Owning your story is about claiming authorship of your future as fiercely as you accept your past. It's knowing that you are not the mistakes you made, not the things that happened to you, not the moments that broke you. You are the one steering forward, learning, adjusting, and continuing to write. Because as long as your hands are on the wheel, the next chapter is still yours to create.